Trayvon, Martin, Jordan, Davis, Jordan, Davis.
First of all, I want to thank you for being here and for thinking it not robbery to sacrifice your time, energy, and resources to be here. We're here for some serious business. You know, when the Newtown massacre went on, I said that the time for political cowardice was over. The time for coward soldiers is up. God don't want no coward soldiers. He wants people who have the courage of their convictions to stand up, speak out, whatever the cost. Now, I'm going to tell you, some folks say this is Georgia. And this gun safety stuff don't do well in Georgia. But let me tell you this. The fact of the matter is, and even the television stations done polls on this, that a majority of Georgians want gun safety legislation. More than half of Georgians want assault weapons banned. More than a half of Georgians want a limit on the number of rounds in a clip. And the overwhelming majority of Georgians, more than 75%, want universal background checks. What that tells me is we're the majority and they're the minority. We're right and they're wrong. But you know what the problem is? We're not loud enough. We're not vociferous enough. That's a long word for loud. We're not aggressive enough. We don't forward lean enough. But let me tell you this. From this day on, we're not going to be quiet. From this day on, we're going to stand up and speak truth to power. From here on, we're going to be God's soldiers on this issue. And so I'm glad to be here to welcome you to your state capital. And I have a question. Are you fired up? Are you ready to go? I didn't hear you. Are you fired up? Are you ready to go? Are you ready to go? Are you ready to go? One more time, because I don't think the cameras may have heard you. Are you ready to go? All right, now I know where I'm at. I'm amongst friends. I'm amongst friends. And we are joined by several legislators who I work with every day. And they keep working with me on these hard issues. People who've been on the battlefield for a long time. And one of those who've been on the battlefield for a long time is my good friend, Nan Orrock. As she comes up to the microphone, I want you to give her a great round of applause, because she's been on the battlefield fighting for progressive issues for a long time. Senator Nan Orrock of the 36th District.
Thank all of you for being out here and standing up. Can you hear us? We want our voices heard across this state. We want our voices heard under the Gold Dome. We're here today standing loud, proud, and strong for common sense legislation to address gun violence. This is a very real situation we face here in Georgia and around the country. The Newtown murders, the rampage, the slaughter of little helpless children in their classrooms touched this nation's heart. I don't care who you were or where you were when you saw that. The tragedy that befell that community touched all of us and moved us to speak out. And we're here today to remember those children and the countless children and adults that have been slain recklessly, wantonly across the towns and cities of our land. You know, we have some of the worst rates of gun violence of all the developed nations. We know that, don't we? 33 Americans are killed every day with guns. We had an assault weapons ban in this country. What happened to it? GOP was in the White House. Dick Cheney made sure that building, that sunset went down and the assault weapons is no longer banned. Those weapons are built to slaughter. They're built to take down human beings. They're not for deer hunting. They're not for going out and getting that possum, treeing him down there in South Georgia and shooting him, and putting him in a pot and boiling him up. That's not what those assault weapons are for. They are murderous weapons that were developed for military purposes. And you know what we're asking our police to do and our first responders to do? To go up against that kind of weaponry that they often themselves do not have. Ask law enforcement. They've been begging for years for common sense gun legislation. Begging for it. And some of the very people that wave the flag and say we support our police turn and walk the other way when the police say control this gun violence and get guns out of the hands of the wrong people and have background checks and limit the magazine capacity and ban these assault rifles. That's what police, law enforcement across the land begs us to do. They testify in Congress. Right here in Georgia, they tell us that. And they're ignored. We will not stand silent. We are here today to send out a message that we represent the vast majority across Georgia and across the nation. When we say we're not going to tolerate this level of violence and this abuse of these high-powered weapons in the hands of the wrong people. We're going to put in background checks for everybody, universal background checks. Can I hear it? Universal background checks. Senator Fort has led here in Georgia. We all signed onto the bills that have been introduced, calling for limiting the capacity of magazines to 10 rounds, banning assault-type weapons, and having universal background checks. Isn't that simple? Isn't that common sense? And when you think of the pain that a family endures when their loved one is on the wrong end of that gun violence, and you look in their faces on television almost nightly, and you know, as President Obama says, that could be your children. That could be your family, that could be your neighbor, that could be your elementary or preschool classroom. It could be you. We have allowed irresponsible policy from a small crowd that have been out here out organizing us. And we've allowed them to misshape the policies in this country on guns. And we've certainly seen that happen here in Georgia. You know, we've got legislation introduced up here right now to allow all sorts of, they want to allow me and all my colleagues and anybody that ever served the legislature to tote a gun anywhere and everywhere they want to tote one, in a bar, in a restaurant, in a school, in a church, just because we were legislators, that we can tote them everywhere a cop can tote them. That's the kind of nonsense legislation that we need to say no to. That we need to say that makes us ashamed to see that kind of legislation introduced up here. We're going to rally, we're going to advocate, we're going to lift our voices together, and we know that we are in the vast majority of Georgians and of Americans who say it's time to put an end to the killing. It's time to put an end to the killing. It's time to put an end to gun violence. We don't want to turn on our television one more time and see that weeping mother. How many have to go to their graves at a tender young age all across this country? If we tolerate it, we've lost our own humanity if we continue to tolerate that. So thank you for being here. Thank you for representing those who could not come. I see many leaders from our communities that have been battling this gun violence right down in the streets and the back roads and the byways of our neighborhoods right here in Atlanta. Any big city mayor will tell you we need gun violence addressed. We need controls. We have the bills introduced. We need to hear your voices. We need to hear Georgians calling the governor and the lieutenant governor, the speaker of the House, and saying pass the legislation that makes a common sense effort to address gun violence. Pass it this year. Don't wait. Don't turn around. Don't hold up. Don't hold back. There is no excuse for continuing to tolerate the level of violence. Thank you all for your advocacy. Let us go forward together. Stop gun violence now. Stop gun violence now. Stop gun violence now. Stop gun violence now.
Now, Orrock said something about not wanting to see another mother suffer for a family member who has who has been the victim of gun violence. And she said a mouthful, because we have a woman with us who not only suffered the loss of her son, but she thought it not robbery. She thought it not robbery to get in the movement. She's advocating not only for her son, but she's advocating for all sons and daughters who are challenged by gun violence. So we love her and we appreciate her. We have the mother of Jordan Davis with us. And she was not out here when we chanted his name. So we want to raise his name. Jordan, Davis. Jordan, Davis. Jordan, Davis. All right. I'm glad to be able and honored to be able to introduce Lucia McBath, the mother of Jordan Davis, to come and speak to us in the way that she sees fit. Give her a great round of applause.
I'm very humbled and very honored to have been asked by Senator Fort to come and just to show a face of the victim. My son Jordan Davis, has become for us a legacy that's very, very important to walk out. Jordan did not die in vain. We know this. And we know that his death, along with the death of Trayvon Martin and all of the babies that died at Sandy Hook and all the other victims that are countless and nameless and faceless, this walk is for them now. It's bigger than we ever imagined. And it will take many, many, many people to make the legislature understand that no longer do we stand for the gun violence, the needless lives, and so we will need a grassroots movement. We will need people all over the state of Georgia, all over the country to stand up. We will need you to write your legislators. We will need you to come as you've come here and speak and support and acknowledge that the laws in this country advocating gun violence must change. I would ask that you support Senator Fort and all of the legislators that are fighting for our country, our state, and those lives of people that may be affected by the gun violence that has become so rampant in this country. We do this not just for ourselves, we do this for you. I never in a million years thought that I would be affected, that my life, my son would be affected by gun violence. And as we say, who's next? Is it your child? Is it you? It could be someone that you love dearly. You never know. But we are going to ask that you support in any way possible to stand up and speak loud and clear to the country, to the nation, that no longer are we going to stand by and let this continue to happen. And it will take each of you, every one of you, to make up your mind to do something about it. We can talk about it all we want to, and we can pray about it all we want to, but if you do not stand up, if you do not use your voice, if you do not use your right to make change in this country, it will continue and it will get worse. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for every prayer, every bit of support, everything that you've done to lift my family and to lift Jordan. And Jordan did not die in vain, and this will be his legacy that I continue to walk out, that his father walks out, and we hope that you'll walk with us. Thank you.